I like them at the 8 to 11 weeks meeting other puppies.
Yes.
And really nice adult dogs. Don't let them be a pest and annoy the dog. But there is value to a puppy interacting with an adult dog and doing it improperly and having the adult dog say, son, that was a little too much, right? Okay, guys, I'm here with Sarah, and we are talking about something that a lot of people want to know about. We get asked about it every day in classes and on our social media and on the phone. Yeah. How do you properly socialize a puppy? And I think before we tell you how, you have to know actually what we consider proper socialization and what we don't consider proper socialization. So I feel like socializing should be teaching the puppy about the environment. Yeah. Creating optimism in the puppy. That things are lovely, new things are great, new people are great, but I'm always better. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the key. Exactly. I think not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, because a lot of times people will think that in order to properly socialize them, they think that they have to go say hello to everyone. They have to go actually experience and like interact with whatever it is. And that can go wrong in a lot of different ways, right? It could go wrong in that you're building too much excitement and too much value for the other thing or person, whether it's a dog or a person, but also it can go the other way as well, right? You could be creating fear unintentionally for that other thing.
Right. It's like if you went to the mall and everybody who walked by you hugged you. You're either going to be, after the fourth or fifth person, like, oh no, or you're going to be like, wow, hug me, right? And nobody likes either one of those. And so then you create that in the puppies too. And so there has to be some balance. Like, this is an opportunity to greet somebody. This is an opportunity to walk by somebody, because I think that's important, teaching the puppy to go, hey, and keep going versus you have to engage with everybody. A walk isn't about my puppy searching for new friends. A walk is about engagement with me and being cool with the environment.
And also it's a matter of who your puppy is too, right? Also giving your puppy the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, I do want to go say hello to that person, or I'm good. I don't need to go say hello to them either.
Right. And they change moment to moment. Like in the beginning of the walk, they want to see everybody, but in the middle of the walk, they don't. And just because they want to see somebody doesn't mean I'm going to let them. Right. Exactly. So we're gonna make those choices for the puppy because I might think that the person is inappropriate. And that means maybe they're like too wild or they look nervous. And so I have to teach my puppy that that's not always an opportunity.
Yep, absolutely. So when you are socializing your puppy, a lot of times you're trying to take them out to new places, right? The park, if you live near a beach or something like that, in the forest or in the woods, you're trying to take them out into new environments to expose them to that. And a lot of the things that we hear, even when people are just calling us for puppy classes, is that their vets are telling them that they can't take their puppies out until they're fully vaccinated. Few problems with that.
First of all, my daughter's finishing up her third semester of vet school. I am not a vet. She will be. But the problem is if you wait until your puppy is completely vaccinated to socialize them, you miss out on this beautiful window of opportunity the first 16 weeks of their life where it's really easy to make changes and to teach them that things are cool, to create that optimism in a puppy. And if you wait longer than that, you risk puppies not thinking things are great. And talk about the position statement, the American...
Yes. So there was a position statement put out by an association for veterinarians, and basically it supports the idea that, of course, you want to be safe when you're bringing your puppies out, right? Don't go to dog parks, right? That's a whole nother podcast, but don't take your puppy to dog parks where they could be exposed to these, like same thing with pet stores. But also the thing to remember is when you're taking your dog to the vet to get their vaccines, that's where sick dogs go to get treated. So you're unintentionally exposing your dog to those same diseases and things that you want to be careful of. They are being exposed to when they go to the vet's office. So it's really about being smart, right? Be knowledgeable about these kinds of things, but also remember how important socialization can be. And if you don't take this time seriously and really help them expose to things, you can create so much more work for yourself down the line and also really hinder your dog's progression and who they're being raised to be.
My puppy's breeder, Gail, said it the best. She said, expose them to anything and protect them from everything. Yeah. Right? So you just have to be smart about it. going into the woods, obviously make sure there's no bears or wolves or other dogs off leash, but get that experience, get the puppy out there, walking on different surfaces, in town, in the city, in the country. Like, you need to have those experiences early on, or else when your puppy does get them, if it is in a fear period or an adolescent period, they may not be as accepting of it. So I think we're going to put that, are we going to put that link in the show notes?
Yep.
The American Veterinary Behaviorist Association's position paper was done in 2011, and they say that puppies as young as 8 weeks old should go to puppy kindergarten class, right? All the puppies are vaccinated to the point they should be. They're healthy. They're not sick. They say that the risk of not taking them out and doing that is not half as bad as if they didn't get that socialization, because I think the statistic is more dogs are put down because of behavior problems that they could have solved when they were 8 weeks old versus puppies who go to a puppy class and die of a disease, which it's basically doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It would be difficult to actually get your puppy. Again, but it would be a lack of common sense, right? Don't take your brand new puppy to the dog park where there's probably diseases everywhere.
We work very closely with our vets. When I do AKC TV, they have on Dr. Klein, who's an amazing vet. And we believe that veterinarians and trainers should work together for your dog's health. We are not ever going to say, don't do what your vet says. But if we do hear that somebody has a vet who says you can't take your dog out until final shots, we know that all the service dog programs, they take their puppies out 8 weeks old. They're at the train station. They're in the airports. They're walking around town. So we know that that's a model. So we suggest to the people to have a longer conversation with the vet that said that, and then bring up this position paper and see where they fall on it.
Absolutely. All right. So you had mentioned fear periods. So a lot of times new puppy owners have never even heard that phrase before, and then they'll see certain behaviors in their puppies and they'll have no idea where these came from.
Right. So the first one we see is the fear impact period at 8 to 11 weeks. And a lot of people don't know about it. And what's interesting about that is it's usually when people get their puppy.
Yes, exactly. It was right when the puppy's coming home from a breeder that's when you could be in this fear period.
Right. And so we supervise them super closely to make sure that they don't get picked up and dropped by a kid or an adult, that they don't get run up to by a scary dog, or they don't fall down the stairs. Like, we don't keep them in a little puppy bubble, but we do make sure that their experiences at that point are as positive as possible. Again, doesn't mean you just shelter in place. It means get them out, but be smart about it. And some dogs are in this fear period and nothing impacts them. They're Teflon bomb-proof. But a lot of times, we look for those dogs. But a lot of times they're not. So it'll range in very sensitive to not very sensitive, but just be aware of it. 8 to 11 weeks, watch that.
Yeah. And that's where when you are working on socialization stuff, you are going out to parks and things like that, keep an eye on your puppy's body language. We'll do a whole nother podcast on body language. We have webinars available as well, so that you know what your puppy is feeling when they do see something new, right? You'll be able to see, is that fear, is that uncertainty, or are they just nervous and they need a little bit of encouragement to go explore things?
And I like them at the 8 to 11 weeks meeting other puppies.
Yes.
And really nice adult dogs. Don't let them be a pest and annoy the dog. But there is value to a puppy interacting with an adult dog and doing it improperly and having the adult dog say, son, that was a little too much, right? Because that's a really valuable lesson. And then the puppy goes, oh my God, he yelled at me. But then the puppy gets over himself and moves on. But again, the key is having a safe adult dog who tolerates puppies, will not over tolerate them, and then become bullied. It's a fine mix. That's why we love to see puppies at daycare.
Yeah, exactly.
At our daycare, specifically.
And again, it is a good idea to try to find a local trainer where you can go to puppy classes. Maybe you don't necessarily want to trust all different types of daycare. It kind of depends on what the best option is for that for your puppy.
Do your research.
Yeah, do your research. But just going to classes where a lot of times the trainers will do like puppy play groups, like at some point during your series of puppy classes, that's a great opportunity for your puppy to learn how to socialize with other puppies in a supervised environment.
Supervise is the key.
Yeah.
And let's talk about supervise. Supervise means that people watching the puppies need to know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
People can watch a puppy and they're like, oh, look at that. And then the puppies get into a fight. They're like, oh, it suddenly happened. It didn't suddenly happen.
Yeah.
There were signs. So make sure that people watching your puppy are authorities in what they're doing and not just people
and if you're
who love dogs but don't know anything about them.
If you're looking for daycare options, you also want to look for ones that don't do all-day play and they don't throw all the dogs into one big group. You want your puppy to have breaks throughout the day during play and to be with other puppies, their ages, size, and temperament. We have another podcast coming out about kind of proper puppy exercise guidelines that'll also go through their growth plates and all of that. And we'll talk about play there, but it's not safe for your young puppy to be playing with a really rowdy, bigger adult dog because they could get injured very quickly. So if you're doing the greetings with an older, friendly adult dog, keep the play calm. But again, if it's a puppy who's within about 5 pounds of them, then the play is fine.
And a lot of people go on these puppy walks and they're like, okay, I'm not going to let my puppy interact with anything. And I'm going to keep them next to me with the food and they're going to look at me the whole time. And that's not really our point.
Yeah.
Although we like to do a lot of stuff with puppies that way and create engagement, we want your dog to explore and see the world. We want them to choose you over the world. And we teach that too. But socialization comes in many forms and you cannot get proper socialization by having the dog glued to your side with food the whole time. They're not seeing what we want them to see or experiencing the world.
This is a good age. You want to go over adventure walks?
Yes. Although I think we're going to do a podcast on adventure walks. Yeah. So adventure walks, basically, it comes from my breeder, Gail, who a decade ago taught me the value of puppies walking in wooded areas with you. And basically, you're not unleashed with them. They're 8 weeks old. You put them down and you just walk. And your goal is to teach them to want to follow you. And sometimes they wander off the path and then you hide behind a tree and they're like, holy hell, where'd they go? And then they look for you and then you have like a puppy party, like, oh my gosh, what happened? And you don't feed them at that point because you don't want to relieve their stress with food. You want to relieve it with you. So we'll do a whole thing on that. And, you know, and I do have some footage of my puppy who's now not a puppy. She's 14 months, showing you how that moved along from wee baby puppy to now, you know, off leash. There's a video of her off leash at 5 months chasing deer.
Yeah.
And I call her back and she comes right back. So the adventure walks are socializing, body strengthening, and relationship building and obedience training all in one.
And the value of those is, again, they're able to explore the world, but we're still working with them. They're able to, they can sniff, they can jump over logs, they can, you know, go rustle in the leaves, whatever they want to do, but we're still building value for us in that. And that's what we're talking about when we're saying, let them explore the world, let them interact with it, but you're also building value for yourself.
And I tell people too, when you get a puppy and you do socializing, that 16-week period is critical because that's when you can do the most change, right? Yeah. And so I had a student with a puppy, and this was back, it was last year. It was like in April. And the puppy at that point was 8 weeks old. And she was talking to me about socialization. And I said to her, like I say to all my students, is there anything in your life that's going to be odd, unusual, or different that this puppy is going to experience outside 16 weeks? And she says, I have an uncle. He's in a wheelchair. And he lives in LA. And he comes out for Thanksgiving. And I said, girl, you better get a wheelchair. Yeah. You better paint the wheel with spray cheese. Let the dog lick it off. And she did. And then the puppy liked wheelchairs too much, but it's okay because we fixed it. Yeah. But who wants to have a visitor, a family member come to the house, have your dog terrified of them? Like, that's not a good holiday, and it's not good for the dog either. So people, if you have a boat or you go down the shore or you do a lot of traveling, you basically are going to socialize your dog to the life that you plan on having with them, not necessarily the one you have right now. Yep. And especially, you know, now because things are a little bit different, the life you're going to have when it is normal.
Yep. Yeah, that's really important to think about. What kind of lifestyle you need with your dog when they're older, because that's going to be different for everyone. At the end of this, we are going to give you guys our general puppy socialization checklist. So you guys have a guideline, but add in, like mentioned, you got a family member with a wheelchair or a walker or something like that. Add those kinds of things into your puppy socialization as well.
So we talked about the first fear period. And everybody's like, okay, whew, got through that. Oh, done. We're done. And then comes adolescence, and the dog is being like, oh, yeah, I don't know my name. I changed it, and I know better than you. Yeah. And then comes the second fear period. Yep. And that's from 6 to 14 months. And you thought you were through it, and now it shows up again. And it looks like this. You have a trash can outside your house by your garage. It's been there the whole time. The whole 6 months.
They have walked past this garbage can
100 times. They may have even peed on it a few times. Yeah. I like that garbage. And then one day you walk outside and they're like, they freak out.
And the body language of this, all right, so in that garbage, let's say the wind blew the garbage bag in a weird way and it made a noise. The way that the first thing I look for is an exaggeration of a behavior, meaning maybe they got spooked by it, and some dogs would just be like, whoa, what was that? And keep walking. I mean, the dog like pancakes itself and panics over the sound of the garbage bag moving. That is a red flag for me, and that says, okay, we might be in a fear period right now. This is not a normal like, ooh, you spooked me, but let me move on with my little day. This is like, oh my God, that was terrifying. The garbage bag is going to eat me.
And then you know what people tend to do?
Yeah.
they tend to then get the garbage bag and shake it around. It's okay. Trying to feed him a cookie. Like the
rustling the bag at their head.
I'm going to die from this. I'm not eating your damn cookie. And then people just go whole hog on it. They're like, okay, so we got to get 10 trash bags and put them outside and take that. And then, you know what?
We appreciate that kind of dedication.
We do.
Appreciate
But
it.
you could make a bigger problem than it is, because this could be just a dog who freaked out once, gets over it, shakes off, and then the next time they see it, it's okay. I need to see 2 or 3 repetitions, not necessarily in the same event, of that dog having that reaction before I say this is a problem.
Yeah.
I note it and we move on with life. But like I come back into the house and he's doing the same thing, then I'm like, yeah, all right, we got to deal with this. But I go really low level.
Yeah.
Because you can make a dog. It's like if I was walking down the street with you and a car backfired and you jumped.
Yeah.
And you recovered, we went on, we walked, that's normal, right? But if you then saw every car and like grabbed my arm, like, oh my God, that'd be terrible. Yeah. And then if I took you to a place where 100 cars were backfiring, I'm going to make Sarah get over it. And I'm going to feed her like M&Ms. Like wrong. It doesn't work that way. So be sensitive to the possibility they could be in a fear period, and then how you deal with it. And we'll probably do an episode on that as well. Is as important as how they responded to that item.
Exactly. So in that moment, calm, cool, and collected, and move on. And like Kathy said, then go back to it later on and see if we have the same response. But in that moment, the best thing that you can do is instill confidence and calm and just go on your merry way, instead of panicking with them and almost feeding into that fear.
We do the Mary Poppins thing.
Oh my goodness, what was that?
Oh,
and keep going.
Let's go. Yeah.
You'll hear us say that all the time.
Because if you do the, oh my God, are you okay?
Don't worry. It's just a garbage bag. And then you shove them towards the garbage. You're doing more harm.
No. Just Mary Poppins it. So we pretty much talked about the top things people do wrong. They create too much interest in other dogs, too much interest in other people. They don't let the dogs experience the environment, right? They keep them right by their leg. They either do too much training or not enough, which is interesting. So we should probably touch on that.
Yeah, that's a fine line. Okay, so then what would be your best advice? So someone's going out on a field trip and they want to socialize their puppy. What does that quick 10, 15-minute session look like?
So I would absolutely have a marker word, which we'll do an episode on. I have a word that tells my dog it means you did it right and food is coming. If you've ever been to one of the water parks where they have whales and dolphins, right or wrong, you know what I'm talking about. And the whale does the behavior correctly. They blow a whistle. The whale swims to the dock and he gets a fish. That whistle to that whale meant the thing you did out there is the reason you're getting the fish. If you didn't do that, then when the whale got the fish at the dock, he would just stay at the dock because that's where all the fish are. But this gives you a way to reward him or mark what he did right remotely. And so I would be doing that on a walk. My dog might see something and go, ooh, what's that? But then they walk up to it and I would give them the marker word, yes. And then they'd be, oh, food. And they'd run back to me. And that would change their mind about it or just make them feel less stressed about it. Like, oh, I looked at that and I got food. So that's a good thing. And so I would do that. And then I would call the dog back to me by their name. I would say their name and run, holding a leash, of course. Let's talk about flexies. I do not think they're the devil. I absolutely don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people do.
They can be great when used properly.
Right. I mean, people are like, oh, flexi, it's going to hurt my... And I always say, you know what? You can get hurt with a fork if you don't know how to use it right? So learn how to use a flexi properly. It's really easy. I don't use it for finishing training sessions, like for my healing, right? Or for my sits and downs. And then I have a regular leash. But on a walk, it's a really nice thing to be able to give them a little bit of length and distance and then get them close again. So we like retractable leashes used properly. And we should probably do an episode.
Yeah. And especially for when you're working on socialization, you may not necessarily be working on that tight training where we're doing sits and downs and formal stuff like that. You just want him to explore the world. And having the flexi, safety always comes first, right? So by having that flexi or the long line, whatever it is, the dog can go out and explore, but you're still attached to them. You can still get them back to you in an emergency if you need.
And that's proper use of a flexi.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit long, a little bit short.
Yeah.
And also on a walk, I am not taking the dog on the walk to experience the entire world in one walk because I see that too, right? So they're like, oh, walk over this grate. Oh, touch that fire hydrant. Oh, look at that loud noise. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to let you explore and I'm going to cut it off. It's not going to be an hour-long excursion.
I think another big thing I always hear from students, they'll ask me is, how many people should they meet? How many dogs should they meet on a walk?
It's not a recipe.
I try to say like 80-20, right? If I'm going to pass 10 people on a walk, they could maybe say hello to 2 of them.
Right, and it depends on the puppy.
Yeah.
So if the puppy is very forward, like, I want all the people, you might do a little less.
Yeah.
And if the puppy is kind of neutral and you see they're not sure, you know what? Ray went through a little fear period in that little 6 to 14 month period. A couple weeks ago at class, she saw a kid who was like this tall. We don't have kids in our home. We have adults. And she was just barking, like losing her mind. Blah, 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 blah. All the hackles up, backing up. Very brave.
But again, that's a display of an exaggeration of a behavior, right? Yeah. Hackles up, barking, like losing her mind at a child for no reason.
And you know me, I was just like, really? So I got her together and I used her marker word. So when she looked at him, I said yes, and I fed her. And then when she went up to him, I said yes, and I fed her. I had her to the point in one session where she was poking him with her nose and running back to me for the cookie. So, and then it's gotten better over the weeks, but it was just some weird out of the blue crap, and you just have to handle it.
Yep. All right, guys. So in the show notes for this one, we're going to have the puppy socialization checklists. You guys can customize them as needed or follow our guidelines. We're going to have that article about puppy vaccinations and socialization by the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior. And then also our puppy prep course.
Oh, right.
We haven't brought that up yet.
We haven't. We have a puppy prep course. It's an online course. We'll put the link in there, and it is awesome. If you can't see us in New Jersey, this is like being with us. We have videos, we have PDFs, we have audios, we have everything. It's just, we released it in March, end of March, and it's just.
And it's not only just once you already have the puppy, it's called puppy prep for a reason. If you're thinking about a puppy, your puppy's not coming for a couple of weeks, we go over everything you need to know before the puppy even comes home. Then the first week, first month, and then we also have 6 weeks of training in that as well. So you can get your basic obedience for your puppy, the foundation for stuff from that course as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. We require our students to check it out. The ones who train with us, we're like, you have to have this because it backs up everything we're teaching you in class. And they find it very valuable. Even though they get us live and in person, it's still really valuable for them. All right. So that's it. I think we've discussed everything about socialization. And if we left anything out, it'll be in the show notes. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you again soon.